Are you ready for a new lesson? It's not a lesson, it's a poem today. Can you see this picture? Oh, you know it. What is it? It looks something similar which is behind our house. It's a shed where we have our domestic animals. But today I'll take you to another shed. See this picture? Yes, it is a shed, but not in our country. Okay, where can you find it? It's in European countries. So children, today our poem is The Shed, written by Frank Flynn. Come on, come along with me. Students, what is this? Close your eyes and listen to it. Students, did you feel scary? I'll say few words to you. Close your eyes and imagine. Terrifying, hair rising, creepy, nerve wracking, horrifying, spine chilling. Now look at the pictures. Are those images created in your mind? I'm sure. Listen. Can you imagine what is the topic we are going to start today? Students, today's aim and objective to identify the poetic devices such as personification, alliteration, and imagery. We'll also learn the poem from the poet's point of view. Students, we are going to learn the word shed and its significance in the modern context. We are also going to enable ourselves and feel enriched with the language, rhythm, and music of words. Instruction students, we are going to read the poem loudly, underline the poetic devices. We are also going to develop rationality and scientific temper by getting connected with the main characters. Today's word in focus. Can you see the picture there? Yes, it's peep. It's a verb meaning to look cautiously. Conjugation peep, peeped, peeped, peeping, peeps. Derivative students, it's peep. Peep is a noun. Usage. We caught Meena peeping through the keyhole. Look at the picture. It's a keyhole. Can you see somebody peeping through the keyhole? Yes. I'll repeat the usage. We caught Meena peeping through the keyhole. Before we go to the shed, we'll know something about the author, Frank Flynn. He was born on December 6, 1906, Sydney, Australia. He was a doctor, author, and later a missionary priest. He was notable for his contribution in religion and medicine. Students, he was also famous for his notable works in the field of literature. He has many books to his honor. The most famous one is The Northern Gateway in 1963, The Living Heart in 1964, and the most popular book is The Policeman Who Had Small Feet. It is the best selling in those days. Do you find any similarity or differences? Can I help you, students? Yes. The one that is on your left is a cow shed. It is also called shed, as our poem's name is today Shed. But the one which is on your right side is an European shed. Do you know the usage of those shed? It looks like a small penthouse, doesn't it? But it is a shed. Now I take you to the journey of the shed written by Frank Flynn. See, this is a shed that is in the European countries. What is this? Is it not looking like an ordinary shed? Oh, is it an old one? And why is it looking so horrifying? Is what we have to observe and know. Once we know it, we are going to analyze why the poet wrote this poem. Now we have the first stanza for you. Let us read it loud. There is a shed at the bottom of our garden with a spider's web hanging across the door. The hinges are rusty and creak in the wind. When I am in bed, I lie and I listen. I will open that door one day. Students, please read it out loud again. There is a shed at the bottom of our garden with a spider's web hanging across the door. Let us imagine now. There is a shed at the bottom of our garden. So you have a big garden, few acres, and there is a shed at the bottom of our garden. We read these lines, isn't it? With a spider's web hanging across the door. Oh, you can see the spider's web hanging across the door. Do you know what is a hinge? It's a movable joint. And creak means making sound. And the poet says, when he is in bed, he lies. I lie. I means the poet. And listen to these frightening sounds. He says, one day he will open the door and see what is there in the shed. Now the second stanza. There is a dusty old window around at the side. He's imagining, he's looking at the shed which is in the backyard of his house, and he's looking from his childhood. And he says, there is a dusty old window around at the side with 3 cracked pans of glass. I often think there is someone staring at me. He thinks that someone is staring at him each time that I pass. I will peep through that window one day. The poet says, I will peep through that window one day. Let me read it again. There is a dusty old window across the side with 3 cracked pans of glass. So can you see the imagination of the poet? You can imagine with the help of these pictures given to you. I often think there is someone staring at me each time that I pass. The poet says, whenever from childhood to this day, whenever he passes through that shed, he feels that somebody is peeping through that window. So he says, I will peep through that window one day. I can see, is what the poet is saying. Someone is staring at me. And he says, I will peep through that window one day. The third stanza, children, read aloud with me. My brother says, there is a ghost in the shed who hides under the rotten floorboards. And if I ever dare to set foot inside, he will jump out and chop off my head. but I will take a peek one day. I'll read it again. My brother says there is a ghost in the shed who hides under the rotten floorboards. See the rotten floorboards? One day he may emerge from underneath. And if I were dare to set foot inside, he will jump out and chop off my head. But I will take a peek one day. The poet says, though he feels that there is a ghost inside, he dares to take a peek one day inside the shed. Last stanza, students. I know that there isn't really a ghost. My brother tells lies to keep the shed for his den. There isn't anyone staring or making strange noises. Read the poem aloud, children. I know that there isn't really a ghost. My brother lies to keep the shed for his den. Oh, now the poet has realized that his brother is cracking a joke on him and playing pranks with him. And he says this, maybe his brother wants to own the entire shed for himself. And the spider has been gone from its web. Since I don't know when, I will go into that shed one day soon, but not just yet. Now, students, close your eyes and imagine these things for 1 minute. Later, I'll take you through the pictures. See the connection between your imagination and the pictures? And there comes the difference of opinion about using the shed. As you have already read, the spider also has left its web, and there isn't any staring or making strange noises. Did you see? But he says, since I don't know then when, I will go into that shed one day soon. But again he says to himself, but not just yet. So he's waiting for a time that when he's grown up and completely matured, one day the poet will enter the shed and owe it. But he says, but just yet not yet means he's not sure when he is going to owe that shed or enter it without any fear. Big question, children. How does imagery change the way we think about things in our daily life? We have to, now as you have undergone this kind of imagery with the help of this poem, you have to know that how it changes the way we think. It really affects, don't you? Now, we are going to think more about this topic. Should we believe in the existence of ghosts in this modern and scientific era? Please think about it and discuss it with your classmates. The moral I would like to suggest is, don't believe in baseless and imaginative stories because they only are created to scare. As the brother scared the poet all through his childhood, you also don't believe in those baseless and imaginative stories. Students, I hope everyone was frightened, isn't it? You were truly frightened about it because the imagery in the poem made all the difference. Didn't you feel it? Yes, imagery is a poetic device that is used in few of the poems where the poet wants to express his fear. So this poem, The Shed, has emphasized, our poet has emphasized more on imagery. I hope you enjoyed the poem. Thank you, students.